Hello, my name's Gerry Ludlow. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be painting the lovely fishing village of Crail in Scotland. And I'm going to be using ink and then watercolour. First thing I'm going to be doing is the pencil drawing, putting in the horizon line and then doing the buildings and the boats quite lightly, but I will be going over in pen afterwards so you can see much more clearly. Now this is quite a long video. It's on for about an hour, so if you don't have time, I don't want to watch the whole of it. If you look in the chapter section in the description, then you'll be able to skip through to the parts that you want to look at. Now the paper I'm using here is 140 Saunders Waterford Rough, which I quite like for this kind of work, and I'm just using a regular HB pencil. It doesn't really matter, as I'll be going over this with the ink after. Now the view that I'm doing here is looking at the houses from the seawall with the boats to the left. It's a bit of a L-shaped composition, and it's my intention to put quite a interesting sky in on this one rather than just a plain sky. There'll be a lot of foreground, and I should be putting some people in as well. These are the fishermen's cottages I'm doing at the moment. Just making sure everything fits. Just want to get the last house running out of the picture. Just checking the alignment of the things like the windows and doors as I go, because as much as the drawing is kind of loose, with the architectural features they do have to be correct. Just adjusting things. Like the height of the roofs. Can get away with quite a lot here because I'll be going over with the pens before I paint, and then I'll just be rubbing out these pencil lines that you can see. I'm drawing in the shadows as the light's coming from the right, because I will be doing it in pen over where the shadows are, making it quite dark, adding to the effect of it being quite a bright day, some sun coming through with in amongst the clouds. And then indicating the people. I'm going to be placing the people walking towards me, so that the in the dark areas there'll be light, and and vice versa. In the light areas they'll be dark, so they'll stand out more. Size wise, the paper is a quarter imperial sheet, which is what I always paint, and it's the ideal size for the setup I've got here when I film, because I film with the paper next to the palette, and it's just about the right size. Any bigger, I'd have to have the camera too far away, things would be too small. Now from the cottages to the foreground, there's going to be some fishing nets and bits and pieces right in the foreground, and then there's going to be this large quay pathway that takes you into the picture, with a stepped area to the right, so it takes your eye right into the part of the painting that is the key part, which is those cottages. To the left, there's going to be the one furthest left is going to be bright white with a red roof. And just to the left of that cottage is the quayside with some steps, and there's some fishing boats in the harbour. Just trying to get these proportions right for these fishing boats. Not too difficult to draw from this angle, looking at the front. And the second one's to the side, so that's quite an easy one to draw. Putting in quite a few of the features here, like the masts and the windows, which will make it that much easier when I come to use the pen. Even though I'll still be quite expressive with my marks when I use the pen. putting in these really nice masks with different ropes coming down and things. Not quite sure the name of what they are. Trying to vary the heights of these masks so not all the same height. Keep it interesting. I try to avoid repetition in my paintings. And is putting in where I want some blocks to be showing. Not going to do too many, just an indication. So quite a lot of drawing. And then putting in the chimney pots last. Really paying attention to the drawing here, making sure that things are as they should be. Now I'm going to be starting with the using the ink pens. I've got a collection of pens varying tip sizes. This is quite a fine one. I'm going to start with this, and I may well switch to something slightly thicker. And when I do my lines, I don't do a straight line like you would do if you're using a ruler or something. I try to make the lines slightly broken, and which looks more attractive. And now that I've done the pencil drawing, it's easier for me to put these lines in much quicker. I know that the proportions of things are right, so I'm not measuring or anything. I'm just simply going over the existing lines. And things like the roofs, just doing an indication of what would be the lines of roof tiles. So I can work quite quickly. and with these marker pens, they do dry, the ink dries quite quick, so it won't be long after I finish that I can rub the pencil lines out and start painting. Going to be putting in the panes of glass in the windows in with the pen. Switch to a slightly thicker ink pen. This is just a standard set of ink pens that I bought from Jackson's Art. I do also use a stick which I use with bottled ink, which you may have seen in one of my previous videos, which I quite like. It's actually a match head sharpened that I put into a cane, and I like to use that as well. Painting this way makes it very much easier when you come to actually put the colours on. A lot of the work's done for you as far as the shading goes. Just going over these blocks in the walls of the buildings. I work from the top down so that my hand doesn't go on in the ink, albeit it does dry quite quick. Then there's these masks again, going back over those nice broken lines, not necessarily that straight. When you do things like rigging and that, and it's not quite straight, as long as everything looks the same and not some are straight and some's wonky, then it will look fine. There's these two fishing boats, and there's going to be another one behind. And these masts on these boats keep the eye from wandering out to the left hand side of the painting, keeping your attention on the focal point, which is the white cottage. It is quite important to work out things like your focal point before you start to do anything really in your planning stage. And then on the key side there's these lovely large slabs, blocks that they use in its construction. Just working my way across. Excuse my head. My apologies, I'm having to look quite hard to get these lines in. Forgetting that the camera's there. Again, putting the window panes in with the pen. If you'd like to know what the exact pens are I used, just message me and I'll let you know, or I'll do it in the transcript, or do it in the messaging underneath. More of these lovely chimney pots. Great subject, these fishing villages. It's just the kind of thing I like to paint. And finishing off with the roof on this building that goes out the frame on the left. And now putting in the people in the positions I've drawn them. Nice uncomplicated figures. Just make sure you do the heads small on these. And if you do the legs different lengths, it gives the impression of movement. working my way down towards the foreground. There's this lovely path which seems to be made out of these giant slabs, and there's a raised portion to the right which is really nice, casting a shadow. All very old. And then there's these nets and things. Some red buoys and all sort of bits and pieces to do with fishing. Don't know the names of them, or what the technical names are. But it's a nice, interesting thing to look at, leading you into the painting. Doing the nets quite quickly, trying to keep that loose looking effect to the drawing. With the people in front of the houses there, one important thing is as the ground is level, is that as they go in the distance, the people become smaller, but keep the heads at the same level. Different if it was on a hill, but this is flat or flattish. Now I've got a much thicker nib on this pen. I'm just going to put bits in here and there and do some shading, putting some of the darks. This is the key side, leaving an area in the center white, which would be a rope or something going down. Then we've got the shade on the boat. Now I'm putting in the darks on these buildings. Keeping my strokes in the same direction, more or less. I will be painting over this. making some nice lights against darks. And then there's the shadows coming off of these chimney pots where the sun's to the right and the shadows are to the left. And that's that nice shadow coming off of the houses over that porch at the front of the cottage. Then there's this really nice kind of jagged edge to the right hand side as you're coming into the picture. Some nice dark shadows on that. Spending a bit of time just putting these last few marks in and looking over the picture as a whole. I think it's, yeah, that's it. Now we're going to start the painting. Putting on some clean water in the sky. Going to have a little bit of movement in this sky. So I'm using some Payne's grey, very watery. Just using a medium round brush. This is quite an old one that I like using for skies and foliage, things like that. Just some random cloud shapes. And now making the mixture a bit thicker and adding French ultramarine. Just adding some water to the area just above the roofs of the houses, the cottages, and then back into the paint, French ultramarine. Make it look like one of those days where it's sunny with heavy cloud, so it could rain at any moment. Working quite quickly. Don't worry about getting the paint on the masking tape, that's going to be coming off afterwards. Working my way down with the clouds, trying not to go over it more than once really, and making it slightly lighter coming down to the horizon. Darkening that corner up. And using the same colour to do the small area where you can see the water, where the fishing boats are. This is raw umber, starting to do the front wall on the cottage. As I said, it's much easier once everything's been put in pen. A lot of it's just filling in the areas, kind of a paint by numbers kind of thing. Now I'm using the paint that's on the palette and raw umber, and some burnt sienna into that wall. And then varying the colours here. This is where artistic license comes into play. These walls would just be pretty much the same kind of light grey. This is much more interesting. And then going over these areas that have been done in the pen, the shadow areas. Making this last house kind of a grey colour. So everything looks different. Just moving around the painting now, doing the areas where it's not wet. That's burnt sienna, nice warm earthy colour. And cobalt turquoise for the closest fishing boat. And getting some light red in there for the lower part of the boat. Goes quite well with that turquoise colour. And also just a touch of cadmium red in the light red for this second boat, which makes it stand out quite nicely. And at the same time putting the shadow in, just darkening it up. You'll find that when you put your shadows in with these sort of colours like red, it will be slightly darker shade of red. Now using that mixture with the raw umber mixture to start painting these roofs on the cottages. It's going over quite quickly. I will be going over again over these roofs when it dries out a bit, because it will dry out quite light. Keeping this nice line on this white cottage. The white of the cottage is going to be the white of the paper. It's quite a deep red, but it will tone down a bit. Using a little bit of watery paint there, just to take it off a little bit. As I say, I will be just going over again as it dries out. It's quite a limited palette really with these cottages. Well, and the painting as a whole really. I think with these ink drawings you don't need to put in too many different colours. And these are damp, but they're okay to paint over again now. These roofs, much nicer with the second wash in it. Just trying to vary it a little bit so they're not all one colour. Dipping into the reds and the other earth colours, raw umber, burnt sienna. I like to show my palette because then you can sort of look for yourselves where I'm going, because sometimes I make quite fast decisions and just go with where the mood and the sort of the feel takes me with these colours. That's the beauty of having a palette, and you know your colours well, and you've used it quite a lot. you can more or less put your brush into the colours without looking really as you go. And also practicing your mixing as well, mixing the colours. Just become knowledgeable of what a lot of the what colours they produce as you mix different colours around your palette. Putting in some grey to the foreground there, like maybe a bit of cloud shadow or something like that. And then putting the first wash on this seawall at the back of the boats. I'll probably change that to something a bit more red, brown and red. Looks a bit too wishy-washy. Chimney pots, nice and dark in the sky. Got a nice synthetic brush here. Keeps a nice point, doing little bits like that. Add a bit of interest to the houses. Now doing this collection of nets and things in the foreground. Just something that one of the fishing boats has left there to collect. Putting some nice warm colours in as it's to bring it forward. Dipping into quite a few different colours there on the palette. And greys as well. Some nice warm and cool colours together. And then there's these buoys, just leaving a little area of white there, just as a kind of a chink of light showing on them. It's just cerulean blue. It's quite a cool colour. It's quite nice against the reds. Just putting in some of the shadows now. I use Payne's grey. making that nice and dark, that wall on the quayside, making that white rope stand out. And now bringing in this harbour wall in burnt sienna and raw umber. I wanted to bring that wall out more because I am going to be putting a very, very small line of that you can see a sea in the distance. That brings those colours bring that wall forward. So when I put the sea in, it looks in the distance. Now doing the shadow colours with the actual wall colour I used, which was raw umber with some alizarin crimson and some blue, nice and dark. And bringing this down, being careful not to go over the drawings of figures that I've done. And then there's these sides of the houses are really dark. There's some nice darks there going on that quayside wall and underneath these nets and things. Just looking around the painting, seeing where it might need a little bit of attention, and adding to these marks on these slabs, bringing it forward to the foreground where there's cracks and bits and pieces on them. Making them lighter in the distance. using a rigger brush here for these parts that the line has to be very fine. And the rigger brush is a brush with a very fine tip, called a rigger brush obviously because it's good for doing the rigging on boats. Now I'm just going around looking at these things like the blocks and roof tiles and some of the masonry, just tidying it up and adding to it. And then the shadow on these people walking towards you. Nice blue front door. Just taking the masking tape off. That's quite a long painting for me, but quite enjoyable, and I hope you enjoyed it too. I'm going to put the painting up and look at it afterwards and see what anything needs adjusting. Found something already before I finished, which is the writing on the boats. I've got the white gouache out now. Just correcting a few bits. This is the painting completed, and I've had a look at it and added some more shadows where it was necessary here and there, the side of the buildings and the soffits on the cottages, and a little bit on the boat there. But, quite pleased with this painting, and I hope you'll have a go. Until next time, goodbye.